Hello everyone. Today, we will be looking at the darkest secrets of ancient empires. We often look to past empires and civilizations with a sense of awe and wonder. However, there are some disturbing truths about these great civilizations that we should know. Let's get started. Number 10. The Roman Empire. The Roman Empire is known for its many accomplishments, but it also had its share of dark secrets. One of the most disturbing facts about the Romans is that they were responsible for the deaths of millions of people. They conquered many different territories, and they often killed anyone who resisted their rule. This led to the deaths of millions of people. In addition to this, the Romans were also known for their cruelty towards slaves. They would often buy slaves from other cultures and then force them to work in terrible conditions. Many slaves died from overwork or abuse. Despite all of this, the Roman Empire is still seen as one of the greatest empires in history. It's important to remember that no empire was perfect, and that even the great Roman Empire had its share of mistakes. Number 9. The Mongol Empire. The Mongol Empire is another example of an empire that accomplished great things, but also did a lot of damage along the way. The Mongols were known for their military strength, and they conquered a large part of Asia and Europe. However, they also committed terrible atrocities along the way. For example, when the Mongols attacked Baghdad in 1258, they killed hundreds of thousands of people and destroyed many important buildings. The Mongols were also known for their brutality towards civilians. They would often torture people in order to extract information or just for fun. Even though the Mongol Empire eventually collapsed, their legacy of violence and destruction still lives on. 8. The Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire was one of the longest-lasting empires in history. It lasted for more than 600 years. However, despite its longevity, the Ottoman Empire is not remembered fondly by all of its subjects. One of the most disturbing things about the Ottomans is that they were responsible for some of the worst massacres in history. For example, in 1502, the Ottomans massacred thousands of Jews in the city of Jerusalem. They also persecuted Christians and other religious minorities throughout their empire. In addition to this, the Ottomans were also known for their sexism and racism. Women were seen as inferior to men and were often denied basic rights. They were also very racist towards non-Muslims, and this led to a lot of tension within their empire. Number 7. The Russian Empire. The Russian Empire is another example of an empire that was both powerful and evil. The Russians were responsible for some of the worst atrocities in history. For example, during the Crimean War, the Russians tortured and starved prisoners of war. They also committed terrible acts of genocide against various ethnic groups within their empire. In addition to this, the Russians were also known for their paranoia, and this led them to do some very questionable things. For example, they executed many innocent people simply because they were afraid of potential threats. Despite all of this, the Russian Empire eventually collapsed, and today Russia is a modern and relatively peaceful country. Number 6. The British Empire. The British Empire is the largest empire in history, and it lasted for over 400 years. However, the British were not always benevolent rulers, and they often exploited their subjects for their own gain. One of the most disturbing things about the British Empire is that they were responsible for the deaths of millions of people. They used brutal tactics to put down rebellions and often killed civilians in the process. In addition to this, the British were also known for their racism, and this led to a lot of tension within their empire. They believed that they were superior to other races, and this led them to treat their subjects very poorly. Despite all of this, the British Empire eventually collapsed, and today, Britain is a modern and relatively peaceful country. Number 5. The Aztec Empire. The Aztec Empire was one of the most powerful empires in pre-Columbian America. However, the Aztecs were also known for their brutality, and they were responsible for some of the worst atrocities in pre-Columbian history. One of the most disturbing things about the Aztecs is that they practiced human sacrifice. They believed that human blood was necessary to keep the world in balance, and they often sacrificed prisoners of war or criminals. In addition to this, the Aztecs were also known for their sexism, and this led to a lot of tension within their empire. Women were seen as inferior to men and were often denied basic rights. Despite all of this, the Aztec Empire eventually collapsed. When the Spanish arrived in the 16th century, Number 4. The Khmer Empire. The Khmer Empire was one of the most powerful empires in Southeast Asia. However, the Khmer were also known for their brutality, and they were responsible for some of the worst atrocities in Southeast Asian history. One of the most disturbing things about the Khmer is that they built massive temples like Angkor Wat and Angkor Thom. But they did so by enslaving hundreds of thousands of people and forcing them to work on the projects. In addition to this, the Khmer were also known for their racism, and this led to a lot of tension within their empire. They looked down on people of other races, and this led to a lot of discrimination. Despite all of this, the Khmer Empire eventually collapsed due to overexpansion and warfare with neighboring states. Number 3. The Byzantine Empire. The Byzantine Empire is often overshadowed by the Roman Empire, but the Byzantines were also responsible for some of the worst atrocities in history. One of the most disturbing things about the Byzantines is that they were responsible for the deaths of millions of people. They were known for their ruthlessness and would often kill anyone who opposed them. In addition to this, the Byzantines were also known for their corruption, and this led to a lot of problems within their empire. They were very corrupt, and this led to a lot of inequality. Despite all of this, the Byzantine Empire eventually fell to the Ottoman Turks in 1453. Number 2. The Persian Empire. The Persian Empire was one of the most powerful empires in ancient history. However, the Persians were also known for their ruthlessness, and they were responsible for some of the worst atrocities in ancient history. One of the most disturbing things about the Persians is that they built their empire on conquest and subjugation. They conquered many different territories and then forced the people living there to pay taxes and follow their laws. In addition to this, the Persians were also known for their sexism, and this led to a lot of tension within their empire. Women were seen as inferior to men and were often denied basic rights. Despite all of this, the Persian Empire eventually fell to Alexander the Great in 330 BC. Number 1. The French Empire. The French Empire is another example of an empire that was both powerful and evil. The French were responsible for some of the worst atrocities in history. One of the most disturbing things about the French Empire is that they were responsible for the deaths of millions of people. They used brutal tactics to put down rebellions and often killed civilians in the process. In addition to this, the French were also known for their racism, and this led to a lot of tension within their empire. They believed that they were superior to other races, and this led them to treat their subjects very poorly. Despite all of this, the French Empire eventually collapsed after World War II. Do you think there are any other empires that should have made it on this list? Let me know your thoughts below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned something new. Have a great day.